The night was supposed to be perfect, one of luxury, power, and celebration. Billionaire James Harrison had spent years building his empire, and tonight, at the grand New Year's Eve gala, he was surrounded by the elite, raising a glass to another year of success. But while he laughed and toasted with his guests, something unthinkable was happening back home. Just miles away, inside the Harrison family's private mansion, shadows moved through the hallways. The security system, top of the line, impenetrable, was suddenly useless. The safe, hidden behind layers of protection, was cracked open with eerie precision. And inside, millions of dollars worth of rare diamonds, the most prized possessions of one of the richest men in the world, vanished without a trace. When James returned home later that night, still basking in the glow of the evening, he immediately sensed something was wrong. The air felt too still, the house too quiet. Then he saw it, the safe door hanging open, the once secure vault now nothing more than an empty shell. His heart pounded. This wasn't just a robbery, this was personal. Someone had known exactly where to look. Someone had outsmarted one of the wealthiest, most powerful men in the country. But who? As police swarmed the mansion, questions filled the air. No forced entry, no security footage, no obvious suspects. It was as if the thief had walked right through the front door. The investigation began immediately, but the deeper they looked, the more shocking the truth became. This wasn't the work of a professional gang or a high-tech hacker. The betrayal came from somewhere much closer. And then, the real twist. Evidence started to surface, pointing in a direction James never could have imagined. The person behind the heist wasn't a stranger. It wasn't an outsider looking for quick cash. It was someone from within his own world, someone he had trusted, someone he never thought capable of such a thing. But why? What could drive someone to risk everything, to steal from a billionaire who had everything? Was it greed? Was it revenge? Or was it something even deeper? As the truth begins to unravel, what James Harrison discovers will change his life forever. Because sometimes, the greatest betrayals don't come from enemies. They come from the people you least expect. And for James, the biggest question remains: can he ever forgive the person responsible? The shocking answer to this mystery is coming up next. Stay tuned. James Harrison sat in his study, staring at the empty safe, his mind spinning with disbelief. The police had come and gone, searching for clues, questioning everyone in the house. But nothing made sense. There were no broken windows, no forced locks. Whoever had done this knew exactly how to get past the security. It had to be someone close, someone who had been inside before. The thought sent a chill down his spine. Meanwhile, across the city, Alex Harrison leaned back in a dimly lit lounge, surrounded by his so-called friends. The stolen diamonds had already started to disappear, sold off to secret buyers for quick cash. The money was flowing, and Alex felt something he hadn't in a long time: control. For years, he had lived under his father's expectations, always being told who he had to be, what he had to do. But now he was free. Or at least, that's what he wanted to believe. The problem with secrets, though, is that they don't stay hidden for long. One mistake, one wrong move, and everything could fall apart. And that mistake had already been made. One of Alex's friends, desperate for even more cash, had sold a diamond to the wrong person. A buyer who wasn't just in the business, but working undercover with the police. It didn't take long for investigators to connect the dots. And, once they did, all the evidence started leading back to Alex. Back at the Harrison mansion, James refused to rest. He hired private investigators, dug through every possible lead. He needed answers. And soon, the pieces of the puzzle started coming together. Security footage from the night of the gala showed Alex slipping away unnoticed. Witnesses placed him near the house. And then came the final, undeniable truth. The police had found messages, conversations between Alex and his friends, planning the heist in detail. The betrayal hit James like a hammer. His own son had stolen from him. But why? James couldn't understand. He had given Alex everything: wealth, privilege, opportunity. Had he been too hard on him? Had he pushed him too far? Or was Alex just too selfish to care about anything but himself? The confrontation was inevitable. James sat in his office, his hands gripping the armrests of his chair, waiting. The moment Alex walked in, his father's cold, piercing gaze locked onto him. "Tell me it's not true," James said, his voice quiet but heavy with emotion. Alex hesitated for only a second before scoffing. "So what if it is?" he said, crossing his arms. "You act like I stole your soul. It was just diamonds." James slammed his fist on the desk, his patience snapping. "Just diamonds? Do you even understand what you've done? You betrayed me, your own father. For what? For money?" Alex's smirk faded. He had expected anger, but this was something else. He had spent so long trying to prove he didn't need his father, but now, standing in front of him, hearing the raw disappointment in his voice, he felt something he hadn't expected. Guilt. But before either of them could say another word, the sound of sirens filled the air. Blue and red lights flashed through the windows. The police were here. The moment of reckoning had arrived. Alex's heart pounded. He had thought he was untouchable, that he could outsmart everyone. But now, as he saw the pain in his father's eyes, as the reality of his actions came crashing down on him, he realized the truth. He had lost everything, and there was no turning back. The flashing lights outside the Harrison mansion painted the walls in shades of blue and red. The sirens grew louder, cutting through the tense silence between James and Alex. The weight of what was about to happen settled heavily in the air. Alex felt his chest tighten. He had spent so long running from responsibility, from his father's expectations, but now there was nowhere left to run. James stood frozen for a moment before walking past his son, heading toward the door. His mind was spinning. He had spent years building an empire, crafting a legacy that would stand the test of time, but in doing so, had he neglected the one thing that mattered most? His own son? Had Alex done this out of greed? Or had he been crying out for something more? The questions burned in James's mind, but there was no time left for answers. The front door swung open, and the police officers stepped inside, their expressions serious. "Mr. Harrison," one of them said, nodding at James before turning to Alex. "Alex Harrison, we have a warrant for your arrest." Alex's body tensed, but he didn't fight it. He didn't say a word as the officers placed handcuffs around his wrists. The reality of the moment sank in, and for the first time, the thrill, the rebellion, the rush, it all faded. He had thought he could escape the consequences, that he could play by his own rules. But the game was over. As they led him toward the door, he glanced back at his father, expecting to see nothing but anger. But instead, he saw something else. Disappointment, yes, but beneath that, something even worse. Sadness. A deep, painful sadness that cut through him more than any punishment ever could. "I never wanted this," Alex said quietly, his voice barely above a whisper. James exhaled, shaking his head. "Neither did I." The officers led Alex outside, where cameras flashed, reporters already gathering to capture the downfall of the billionaire's son. The story was everywhere. Headlines about betrayal, about a legacy shattered. Harrison Enterprises took a hit, stocks dropped, and whispers of scandal spread. But for James, none of that mattered. The business could be rebuilt. The money could be made again. But the bond with his son, that was what truly felt lost. Days turned into weeks. Alex sat in a holding cell, awaiting his trial. The reality of everything he had done weighed on him, heavier than the walls around him. He had spent so much time trying to prove something to his father. But now he wasn't even sure what that was. Revenge? Freedom? Independence? Or had he just been too lost to see what he really needed? James, meanwhile, sat alone in his study, staring at the empty safe. The diamonds were gone, but they could be replaced. What couldn't be replaced was the time lost between him and his son. For the first time in years, he wasn't thinking about business deals or profits. He was thinking about Alex, about all the moments he had missed, all the times he had pushed instead of listened. He had built an empire, but in the process, he had lost the one thing that truly mattered.